So, Jeff, I have a question for you, as this are the old timers. Think back to your first competition and tell me, how much did it cost you monetarily to do that show and your prep? And what did you spend all of your different funds on?
You want me to go back all the way to 1993, Brad?
I've
I
already
can't
kind of
even
figured
remember
mine
what I
out.
did. I can't
You're
even
gonna
remember
have
what I did last week.
to factor in inflation here.
1993. Let's see. I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna estimate to what I can remember. And I would say entry fee into that show, maybe $40, $30, somewhere in there. There was no polygraph test because it was a non-tested show. Um, Posing trunks. I remember getting my posing trunks because it was Jaguar. And if you guys know Jaguar, like they worked out of their house. And that's a story right there. Like I actually went to their house and they custom made my posing trunks right there on the spot. But they were like
That's a story.
$30 maybe, $25, something like that. It was a local show, so I didn't have to do any hotels. I stayed at my brother's house. Maybe gas money to get there. There was no bodybuilding coaches back then, like we know it now. So I prepped myself. So there was no fees associated with that. I mean, so long story short, it was far less than what we have to pay nowadays. Like far less. And I think like when you're thinking about a contest prep, like running one, like I didn't have to take into consideration the fees associated with it. Like now it's like I got to think about logistics. Like I got to think about my finances because this sport, and it's like golf. It's super expensive. It's an expensive hobby. But yeah, it was far cheaper back then, Brad, than it is now. That's for sure.
The reason I bring that up is, as I remember pretty vividly thinking to myself, you know what? Prep is free. In fact, prep actually saves me money because I'm not eating as much food. Of course, not really realizing that I spent money on supplements and, things like that. And I own the gym, so it wasn't like I needed to pay a gym membership. But I remember thinking that to myself at the time.
I actually spent more on food when I prep because I was like, now I'm like eating more healthy, and healthier foods tend to cost more than like the not quote unquote non-healthy foods. So I remember my food budget would actually go up a bit. But I wouldn't go to restaurants as much. That was the thing. So I saved money there. So it kind of balanced out.
Yeah. And I remember thinking back at the time, because that a total another story in itself is I spent more money on supplements at the time than I did on food. But I do remember thinking that. I remember literally convincing myself that prepping was basically free. It actually saved me money. And that's one of the reasons that I prepped for, like, what did I prep, 4 years in a row or something like that? But now, fast forward today, I don't really think that very many people think about the financial investment that comes along with prepping and competing in bodybuilding. And so, yeah, that's what we're gonna discuss today is the financial costs of this sport that we do. So, Brian, you kind of interjected there. I kind of want to hear from you. You're very astute in the inflationary part, but kind of you interject here a little bit about the financial costs and talk about anything we might have missed.
Yeah, I think for me, the cost is mostly associated with actually competing, go registering for the shows. Because I do think the food, what Jeff touched on, is true. I like to go out to dinner. We get meals to go, and especially now, in this economy, it's expensive, obviously. And I think now pulling back there does free up some resources financially. So I think the food aspect, I think, is offset for me personally, just if I'm eating out personally less. But the bulk of the cost, especially where we're located, geographically in Colorado, there's not a lot of natural shows here. So it kind of inevitably requires flights somewhere. If you're wanting to compete in the show you want to compete in. So I think that's the bulk of it is, the travel, the show expenses, and everything that goes into that. Um, but I also think, from one overlooked aspect of prep is you tend to be more productive too. So I think if you're self-employed, I think that can help. Um, when you have structure in other areas, sometimes, I feel like whenever I've prepped, I've been in a good space in terms of organization, and that has residual benefits financially too. So, but yeah, competing's not cheap. It's especially, for the female competitors, it's the males have it significantly easier in that regard. But yeah, I think it's the actual act of competing that where things can rack up costs pretty significantly.
Yeah, so let's toss this over to Berto now, because as of the date of this recording, Alberto has announced the diet has started, the prep has started. He's even got up the physique pictures on his social media. So, Berto, since you have just now started your prep, have you seen any of this financial burden at all, or did you kind of maybe front load some of those costs of foods and any supplements and things like that that maybe you were being proactive about?
No, I mean, I don't know. I guess I know what I'm signing up for, which you don't your first time. I did have a taste of it. I remember I wanted to do NPCT nationals when I was able to do that. And when I put everything together, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to do the qualifying show. And it's like, wow, it's not just like you pay to do the show. It's like you pay the Fed and then you pay for the class. And if you want to do another class, you pay for that. So all of a sudden, okay, wow, didn't expect that. That's just for the local show. Then the tanning, something you're just not ready for because, just about every other sport I did was almost free because I guess school or maybe you signed up for a little basketball tournament, but it was a lot simpler. It was very one and done. The posing attire, like you don't even know where to get that from. Like Jaguar, like Jeff said, happened to be in our backyard, but the costs just keep coming up. Um, so I got a taste of that and I was like, all right, like this is not happening. I'm probably gonna have to wait until I am a full-fledged adult to have a little extra money to compete. And I think when I finally did do it, 2 shows was about as much as I could do because everything was a few hours drive away. Um, Hotels at that point, that becomes an issue. Um, Different federations, right? So if I compete in this natural federation and now I want to compete in this next one because they don't have multiple shows a year, now you're buying like two memberships, you could say. So it gets pricey. It is something that I think the first time you do it, you should probably create a spreadsheet of how much like it's going to cost and all. And there's going to be some things that just kind of sneak up there that you can't predict. But just like we talk about like contest prep positioning and how there's certain things when it comes to bodybuilding specific X's and O's you should account for. Same thing on the financial side. Because if anything, especially for the young competitors out there, it might mean like, guess what? Maybe not next year, maybe the year after, which I think, if anything, is not a bad thing because it gives you more time to train and improve your physique. And it teaches you how to set these goals that aren't like within one calendar year, but maybe one or two. And I think that is very important for people to learn. So yeah, it gets pricey and it's kind of like golf, you could say, like where it's maybe best for the adults. And if you are a younger person, maybe still in school, it's probably one of those things that you should budget for carefully.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that I don't discourage people that if they don't have 5 or 10 grand saved up, ready to just start divvying out of that pot when they need their expenses. It's not all for naught because some of these things you can kind of take care of along the way. And I kind of speak from experience. I stepped on the bodybuilding stage last year for the first time in 10 years. And during the course of the prep, there's costs along with, like Jeff said, the particular kinds of foods that I wanted to get and different supplements that I might have been taking. I actually got a gym membership for like the first time in probably at least 10 years. And these things that are going to come up, you don't have to have the money for them right then. Because what I kind of figured out is, okay, I'm going to have to, I knew about the things that we're talking about, the tanning, talking about the polygraph, talking about I was going to document everything I could. I was going to get the professional photos. I was going to get the professional video, the whole 9 yards. But I also kind of knew that, well, you know what? Those are things that I can kind of pick off along the way. However, I do really like your idea, Alberto, of creating a spreadsheet, and probably for this to be the most helpful for competitors, is just kind of talking about those things from kind of beginning to end, so that you kind of can get out your notebook and you can kind of start taking some little notes that these are the things that are going to arise, so that you don't show up to the venue shaved and ready to go and realize, oh my gosh, it's $80 for the tan, or worse yet, you just spent $50 on Dreamtan only to find out that the venue does not allow Dreamtan. You have to use the tanners that are there. So I think probably the wise thing, we are a coaching group, right? Let's just kind of start off by talking about coaching, because those that are not listening to this podcast, hopefully your coaches have kind of are helping you in this regard. So yeah, you guys just kind of start throwing out when you kind of realize that sometimes clients, their heart is in the right place, but the first thing they do is drop their dime for coaching. And then throughout the tenure, you kind of, it's revealed to you in your back and forth coaching that this person's not prepared.
But usually, when, like you said, when you talk with someone for the first time, like I prefer getting like a video consult with somebody. Like it's okay, we're starting out with that. And then not only am I game planning like trajectory as far as, okay, we're going to compete in 2026 or 2027, whatever the year it is. That's part of the conversation when you set up that trajectory. It's not just like hit the X's and O's and where our body weight needs to be, but also like the discussion around the financial aspect. Some people, they have, obviously bigger pocketbooks. That's a non-issue. Other people, they got to be a little bit more on a budget. Like they need to be aware of the costs associated with it. So I literally do talk about that side of it and kind of give them an idea, like a ballpark number of what it will cost to actually compete, to actually do a show, everything that's included. And I even for myself, like that's part of my game plan. Like if I'm picking shows out, I pick it out, okay, how many can I do? What areas of the country or world can they be in, and where I can actually fit this into my budget? Because I'm a dad and a husband, I have a family that I have to put first. And actually part of the reason why I quit my 2018 prep was because of finances, because there was a lot going on in the family. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to compete and I'm going to do 2 or 3 shows leading into Worlds, I have to qualify for Worlds. That means I have to do a show. And each show as a pro, depending on how far you got to travel and all that, it can run upwards of well over $1,000 per show. And if you want your family to attend, that's more airline tickets. That's ticket prices for them to actually see the show. So it gets pretty costly. And even if you do well at a show, like you win some prize money, like, okay, maybe you break even for that trip, possibly. But you're always in, like, for me personally, I've always been in the red coming out of a season. So I think it's important, like if you're one who's thinking about competing, like that's part of the planning. Is like, okay, I got to think about the financial aspect of this. And as a coaching company, obviously we have our prices, and I think if you're going to do something like this, it's better to get someone who knows what they're doing. Like obviously we have tons of experience coaching, and I'm not one who's going to say, hey, I'm going to take you on a prep, and it's okay if you you don't have the budget, like, you can do it. We'll figure it out. Like, okay, could no, this person's not ready because maybe they need things in life more so than they need a prep that's a little more like stable. Maybe their job needs to be more stable. Maybe they need to take care of family a little better or those types of things. So I'm always going to give someone my honest opinion, whether they're ready to compete, whether it's for physical reasons, emotional reasons, or if it's even financial reasons. So I think it's important that we're giving that guidance from the get-go.
Yeah, I think it's a rude awakening if you sign up for coaching, you sink the cost into that and you don't know. Like I mean, it's probably one of the more expensive parts if you hire a coach across, 5-6 months, but the travel, a lot of people just aren't aware of everything that goes in. So it's important to know that before you sink costs into coaching, because then it could be all for nothing if you get to the end and you can't afford to actually get on stage.
Yeah. Like any endeavor I think about, if I'm gonna do something like it's not bodybuilding, it's something else, like, and I don't know much about it, I'd probably want to have like someone, like a good coach who knows exactly what they're doing, because it's going to be worth the money. They're probably going to save me a lot of heartache in the end. Because I've done so many preps without coaches, because obviously coaching wasn't a thing back when I first started competing. And you guys know how long it took me to finally grasp everything. Like I'm talking like 10, 15 years later, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to figure this thing out. So that money is well worth the investment, in my opinion, because that fast tracks you to where you really want to go. And if you get a good coach who's going to be able to do it in a safe way too, like it could save you not just like heartache as far as like getting in your best shape or not, but like the financial side, the health side, like all that can really play in your favor. Like it's a good investment, in my opinion.
So when you guys are taking your athletes through their prep, and you kind of, there's a certain point in time when it's like there's that first, because like you said, Brian, it kind of compounds. The expense gets more and more lofty the closer you get to the show. Do you have you guys have a little bit of a system that you use as you know that these things are coming up? So like, for example, one of the first things that usually I will always tell the person is I'll say, you know what, the first thing and probably the least significant thing that you need to do is just go ahead and get the membership for the organization. That's usually the cheapest. It's usually somewhere between, I mean, I think the WNBF that I paid last year was $75 for an amateur, but it's a negligible cost. And if you're truly committed to what it is that you're doing, that's the least that you could do, because signing up for a show is a little bit more financially burdensome. Sometimes people have open-ended preps and they don't necessarily have a show picked out. But to kind of spread out the cost a little bit, I kind of like to take it in phases. Let's get this taken care of first. That way, boom, we've got that checked off. There's $50 to $100, whatever that is now done, and then you can kind of put that behind you. Do you guys have a bit of a system that you're following, kind of knocking these things down? And is it ever like just kind of rejected and I'll just think about it all at once when it happens?
Yeah, I think it's good to, especially if you're on a budget, to kind of knock things out as you go, like you said. And I think when you pay the federation fee for membership, that kind of puts a little bit of skin in the game, I think, and you can kind of help, having that upfront investment a little bit. But yeah, you don't want to be surprised by the end though. So I'm a big proponent of kind of taking care of costs, setting this stuff aside as you go, rather than, the month of competing, shelling out $3,000 just to make it work. So I try to convey that to my athletes, especially if they're first time competitors. If they're seasoned competitors, usually they're, obviously more in tune with what to expect. But, we work with a lot of first time competitors, and that's an important conversation to have, and try to start setting that aside from the get-go and paying those bills down as they go along.
Yeah. So, I mean, Alberto, you were kind of the one that, here I am, the spreadsheet master, and you're the one that was like, oh, I think that you should make a spreadsheet. I'm like, that is a great idea. How do you kind of systematize, I guess you might say, all of those things and conveying it out and knocking things off as you're going through the prep?
It could be an ugly little spreadsheet too. It don't got to be nothing crazy. Just to see it on a list. You could do pen and paper. Some people still
100%.
track
Yep.
their nutrition that way, right? But I think one thing that being priced out does, I think it, if anything, it makes it so that you're not prepping every year, right? Like it could be something, it just kind of falls in line with like what we generally recommend, at least a full year. But you know what would probably be better if you competed every 2 to 3 years, right? So um, I think if anything, I guess that's the one positive that comes from like this or competing in the sport being a little bit pricey. I think now compared to maybe when we first started, just because we are seen as, I'm gonna say like the premier coaches, I'd say like within the sport, like front runners, at least for that title, right? Our prices have changed, right? So by the people we usually get, they're like adults that have really thought this out beginning to end, right? So we're not having as many of those conversations. Every once in a while, though, you will get someone young who is like, this is just like my thing. Like my friends spend money on trips to Cancun, music festivals, going out on the weekends. This is my thing. And it's I get it. I get it because you know, it was my thing for the longest time as well. When I think to anyone viewing what I was doing, they think it was a little unbalanced and not a very reasonable approach to life. But I get it. With these people, yes, you have to sit down and you have to try to predict what it might be like we might have to bite the bullet and like we have to do untested shows because that is all we really have access to. Um or um what else? The coaching. I think that is such a big filter because the thing about this sport is that it can be deceptively dangerous. Like we've seen it. People who really were about this life, they had a great body comp year round, but maybe they have the wrong Sherpa for a contest prep and it leaves them like absolutely wrecked and um you know all those negative things that can come from a contest prep, eating disorders, body image issues, hormonal problems, all those things. So this is where it kind of goes against like recommending us, but there are a lot of, because we've been there before, like startup coaches that um we just need a chance. Like someone just needs to give us a chance. There's a lot of great entry level coaches out there for especially young folks. Because outside of just competing, if something is really your thing, what you should probably be investing the most in isn't like, I don't know, the latest uh what are the kids wearing these days? Young Law gear. Like it should be I know what it actually is. I'm being facetious. Um
Well, I don't.
I don't either.
Young LA, young LA. Like it shouldn't be that. Like it should be your education, I think. Right? I think very early on, like Jeff mentioned, like if he would have had a mentor, um, not only would you get there quicker, but it would be a lot safer of a process. And also a good mentor can help you make decisions like this. Like, hey, bro, like you're about to enter like graduate school. Like you don't know what the bill situation is gonna look like next year. Maybe we hold off on this, right? A good mentor does that for you. Um, so yeah, I think regardless of whether you're competing or not, I think a good mentor and spending a mentor is part of like the education bill, if you ask me, is going to, if anything, save you a lot of time and money. So good mentors, like way better than like the cutest pair of leggings, in my opinion.
Good point. Good point. And I also realized that you were being facetious because I have heard of young LA and their ambassadors that they have out there. But let's kind of move the conversation forward. So, okay, we've kind of said, well, we're dialing into these things. We kind of know and are conveying these costs. Maybe we've knocked off the membership for the particular organization, and like you said, Brian, got a little skin in the game, right? What's kind of the next thing, you know, because Berto, you kind of touched on it, but we got to start looking at these shows, right? And it varies, obviously. I mean, if you're a first time competitor, maybe we're just doing something local that is there in your area or at least within a couple hour drive, right? Um, in the time frame that we're roughly kind of like Jeff said earlier, we've kind of mapped out. What's the next thing for you guys? Is it actually kind of signing up for the show, paying the fee and the entry fee to get in? Is that what's kind of next for you guys, or is there something else that kind of maybe kind of preempts that?
The entry fees, Brad. So most times I'm having the athletes wait till closer to the deadline because I want to make sure that they're actually going to be ready for that show. Like the last thing we want is like we sign up for this show 6 or 7 months in advance and they're not ready. And it's like, okay, now you just spend all this entry fee money that's probably going to be non-refundable. And polygraph tests, tanning, like all these fees are associated into this show. I don't want that to be a waste. So it's like, let's wait until closer to the deadline. And then once we know for sure, like, okay, you're going to be ready, you're on. Okay, now let's get the entry fees taken care of. Let's make sure you're actually signing up for the tanning in advance. So that way they can get a good tanning appointment time. Because the last thing you want is to be Friday before a show, they tanning you in the first thing in the morning and you got to sit and tan all day long on Friday. So it's like, let's get that scheduled towards late afternoon, early evenings, so you're not spending your time in that. Because you want this to be at least stressful process as possible when it comes to like show day and all that. So I try to wait till the deadline to get that stuff taken care of. Same thing with the polygraph. Hey, if we can get that scheduled at a reasonable time, so that way you're kicking your feet up on Friday, you're chilling out most of the day, as opposed to rushing around trying to check in and tanning and polygraphs. That's what I want to do. Usually most shows they have a deadline, and if you go, you could probably sign up past a deadline for some shows. They just going to charge you a late fee.
Yeah, I like the idea of, especially for first-time competitors, waiting on the registration fee for the reasons you mentioned. And I think if it's your first time competing, there's value in having it open-ended. It's like, we'll pick a show and we're confident you're going to be ready. And I think it just makes for a much more enjoyable experience. I know I didn't do that my first show. I had put the money into the show months in advance, and I'm 3 weeks out from the show, and I realized like I'm not going to meet the dress code here.
Right.
So it was
cheeseburgers for glutes on Brian.
Yeah. So but I'm a man of my word, so I got up there. But no, yeah, I think that makes it just a much more enjoyable experience when you have when you can have a more relaxed timeline. I mean, eventually you're going to have to make that decision, but it's not a matter of if you'll be ready, but when. I think that's a good place to be for your first show. But I'm wondering, like, should we just kind of list all of the associated fees? Would that be helpful, you think? So,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I do want to kind of tack on to your guys's kind of holding off on signing up for the show with one thing that is becoming less prevalent now. But how many times have y'all kind of got an athlete that they've signed up for the show, they're committed, we are on a timeline, we're going to make it, and then they find out they're the only bodybuilder, or they find out that it's a show that has I've done these kind of shows before. This is a show that's got like a total of 10, 12 competitors. Jeff, you and I have done that before, where there was literally 5 or 6 people. That's kind of something else that I kind of like to investigate, especially for people that are really wanting to kind of compete. They don't want to walk away with a first place out of 1, or a top 3 out of 3, So I wanted to kind of interject that as well. It's kind of worthwhile to sometimes maybe get a hold of the promoter and kind of say, hey, how's your turnout looking? What's the competition landscape kind of look like? So yeah, I kind of wanted to tack
that's
that
a-
on there too. if you guys had anything, else that you wanted to kind of tack onto that.
I think it's good. It's just your research. You kind of look at the past history of the show. How long has it been in existence? What if most shows, if they've been in existence for a while, they're gonna have their results page, so you can see, like, get a feel as far as how many athletes were in past shows. And if it's well attended, then chances are it's gonna be probably a good show to compete in. But if it's low numbers or it's first year in existence, you have to have the expectations like this is probably gonna be a smaller turnout. I'm okay with smaller turnouts if I'm doing a show, but going in with the expectation, like, this is more of me just here having fun versus I actually here to compete, or like I'm probably not going to get a pro card at this show or something like that because the numbers are just going to be low. If you're okay with that as like more of like a art show and you're there to express your art, and if you're willing to pay money to do that and it's your jam, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're someone who's competitive and you're looking for like a competitive experience, like, do your homework, do your research. Cause you're going to be you're going to put a lot of money into these shows, and the list of fees, and I know we got to get to that. So off the top of my head, that's like, okay, we already covered coaching. We covered entry fees. And I mean, if we're looking at average prices of that, that's going to be probably in the neighborhood of 75 to 150 per class. For us pros, it's more like 200 to 300 as an entry fee. Tanning, like probably average of like $100 to $200 for that, depending on the tanning people. If you want to purchase photo packages, now you're at another $100, $200, $300 there. Videos might be even more. The females, they got to deal with hair and makeup. There's suits, which are, they're all bedazzled. So like men's posing suits going to cost average $50, where the women's posing suits are what? $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $800. So, and then if it's logistically, like we've all done shows where we all have traveled. Brad, myself, and Berto, we did shows in Kansas, and it was a great time, but it definitely costs money. I mean, you got the flights, the hotels, renting cars, hitting up the grocery stores, making sure we're well stocked. Like there's all those things that are associated with that. And just so like that show that we did, guys, and actually it was the year that Berto and I did, or was it when I won Pro International? Oh, it was a year after. So when I won that show, I got $1,200 for first place for winning the lightweight, got an additional $500 for the overall, so $1,700 prize money, but it cost me around $1,200 total to get myself there. So I was in the green $500. I took the $500 because I qualified to do Yorton. I spent the money or actually it was to go to Worlds. I'd spent the money on my airline ticket to go to Worlds. And then I didn't place at Worlds. I got fourth. I didn't get prize money though, so I was in the red. But any other fees that you guys think of around shows? Did I miss anything?
I mean, yeah, hotel. I think another one that a lot of people overlook is the cost of your family just to go see the show.
Oh yeah,
I think some of the
100%.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of these shows like at Worlds, WNBF Worlds. I mean, it's like $100 for the day, I believe, something around that. And if you've got your spouse and kids there, like that in and of itself is a pretty hefty investment.
Yeah, I did a NPC show in Las Vegas in 23, and that one was myself and my wife. That one cost over $1,000 easy. And even local NPC shows that I've done, I did two classes, master's class, open class. The show cost me over $700, and that's just a local show, and there's no prize money there. So it's definitely it's a hobby you gotta love, because even like local shows are gonna cost you. And this is not including inflation since the last time I've competed. So I'm sure things are probably even more costly now.
And one thing that we have to kind of keep in mind too, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but last year I had to show up with cash for my polygraph test. Most polygraphers, they require cash for it. And at other federations where I had to submit like a urine test, they also will only accept cash. It's not like you can show up with your checkbook or your debit card or credit card or something like that. Heck, I don't even think that they'll take like a cashier's check or a money order, but be prepared with a little bit of cash on hand, and probably have a good idea to have cash on hand for unexpected expenses like the grocery store. Hey, 3DMJers. This is Coach Brad Loomis here to talk about the biggest issue every serious lifter faces, and that's the issue of time. Unlike some other skill-based activities and sports that might show progress in a matter of days, strength training and hypertrophy is a much slower biological process. The consistent long-term effort it takes to put on muscle can leave most eager athletes spinning their wheels, second-guessing themselves, switching programs every month, and generally living life with a lack of confidence in their approach. All of these common pitfalls are the exact reasons why most lifters can waste years of their lives without making any meaningful progress towards their physique goals. But it's really not their fault. Even if a bodybuilder wants to be self-sufficient and tries to learn about their chosen craft, most online content is far too short to create a complete picture of what it means to live the life of a successful serious lifter. Aspiring athletes often piece together cookie-cutter programs and quick-fix strategies from various influencers, only to be left in the same spot every 6 months. They don't get long-term results because they don't understand how training, programming, and nutrition planning actually work in the real world and how they work together. We created the 3DMJ Vault to change all that. 3DMJ Vault is an entire ecosystem of over 25 video courses that gel together to create a complete learning academy for bodybuilders who want genuine understanding of the sport. We don't just teach you what you do, we teach you how and why you're doing it. And once you fully understand the principles, we'll teach you how to tailor a customized approach for your goals, your physique, and your lifestyle. The Vault includes all of the video lectures, training programs, and nutrition plans you need to build a solid foundation as a serious lifter. To purchase our entire library of past, present, and future courses, go to 3dmjvault.com to sign yourself up today. You can get all access to all courses with a one-time purchase of a lifetime VIP membership or a one-time purchase of a single-year VIP membership. We made the Vault to create the future 3DMJ athletes we want to coach to the stage, and it's been doing exactly that since 2018. It also continues to grow over time as we add new courses every year that are always included for VIP members in the one-time purchase price. If you're serious about your lifting career and are willing to put in the work, we're confident that the Vault is everything you need to establish a bodybuilding lifestyle that supports your physique goals as a self-guided athlete for years to come. Get all access at 3dmjvault.com today. Again, that's 3dmjvault.com. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the rest of the show.
So, Berto, how many shows are you planning on doing this season?
Yeah, so because of recent responsibilities, I've had to like bring it back a little bit. It was very different when you're a young man with some disposable income. Well, not so young man, but big difference, right? Because now babies are expensive, especially the first year. It's like, oh, you need another car seat? Okay. All right. Well, that could have been like a show for daddy, but you gotta keep her safe. So yeah, it got a whole lot more expensive, but not really, I guess you could say. Like now my bodybuilding is like let me see what is like really logistically like, well, what makes the most sense, as opposed to like, hey, I want to go do a show in Dubai. That was something I wanted to do, so I can't do that no more. Now it's like I'm just gonna go to California and do a show to qualify for Worlds that I've done many times over, because the tickets are going to be like 1/10 of the cost, right? So yeah, I think now more than ever, it's just like when me and Brian did a show in Kansas, like that was trippy, because we could have, remember you put it on the Google Maps, and like we could have just hit the road in the car and gotten there at virtually the same time, right? But yeah, I think now more than ever logistics matter, and I think sometimes promoters don't understand that. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I'll get random it's always Facebook, like messages from people like, I got a show in North Dakota or something, and it's like, you should bring your team, and it's like it doesn't work that way. Like we never pick shows for athletes in that way. It's usually what makes the most sense. Like, how many shows do I want to expose you to? Because one and done kind of sucks. Usually two is perfect for newer competitors because especially if it's your first show, like you don't even get to enjoy it. It just goes by so quick. Um, you probably need another one just to really sit there and understand what it is that you're doing, what it is that you did a few weeks ago. So two shows is usually good, but usually that's what we do. It's like, hey, you know what? We know it's going to be unfair because it's an NPC show and we only work with drug-free athletes. Like, we'll just chalk it up because that experience, even though it is an enhanced show, is going to be very relevant to like what you do in the future. You kind of get to get a feel for what the day looks like, how it feels like to be treated like almost cattle at some point. Um, so yeah, yeah, I think logistics matter so much. And I think that's where you start. And then eventually, like if you do earn a pro card, that's where things get a little bit more complicated. And you really have to save up your coin. And can you even justify it, right? Like, because long before we fell in love with competing or that aspect of it, there was other aspects of it that were just as good. So but yeah, I'm doing shows in Cali, Jeff. Cali, and then I'm doing one because I have a lot of points on a particular credit card, and I'm gonna do that one in Europe. But I wouldn't be surprised if when it comes down to it, I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna stay close to home because it's just easier right now.
Yeah.
I think for me, like for me personally, when I'm picking out shows, like you, I'm thinking logistically for the family. Like I don't like to be far away from home because as the dad, the protector mode, like you don't want to be far from home. So I think I consider that, but also consider like what kind of experience I want. Like if I'm going to spend money, I want to get what I want out of this. Like for me, like, yeah, I want to be up there with some of the best guys up there. So I think about, okay, where's the most competitive shows? But also think about like, okay, if I'm bringing my family, then if the 2 or 3 day stretch around the show, polygraph test, tanning, all this stuff, it's like, what are they doing? Like, what are they doing? And if I'm bringing them to North Dakota, what are they doing in North Dakota for 2 or 3 days? So I think of it as like, okay, I'm gonna make it more of a destination show, like a vacation destination. So if I tell my wife, hey, I'm gonna go do Worlds, it's in LA. She's like, oh yeah, let's go because she knows there's a lot of things she's gonna get to do in LA. Or even when Worlds was in Seattle, she was okay. I'm so excited about going to Seattle. So like even like with my athletes, that's part of the discussion when they set up their season is like not just like, okay, we're trying to get you qualified for Worlds or we're trying to get you a pro card. These are the shows we want to try to hit up because it gives you the best chances of that. But it's also like where you're going to get a experience. Like oftentimes I always say, hey, come do Muscle Mayhem out here in California. It's not because like, yeah, Muscle Mayhem's got a great reputation for being a good competitive, it's well ran, high quality, but you're also going to get the 3D Muscle Journey experience. You're going to get at least half of the coaches there. Sometimes all of us are there. You're going to have a lot of other athletes that we coach there. So you're going to have this community that you get to share the experience with. And I've been competing for over 30 years. And I can tell you, like, I don't think back and go, oh, yeah, that show I took first. I can tell you the people I competed with. Like, I could tell you in 2006, Brad and I did a show in Chico, California, and there was like 6 people total in the show. And I was like in the intermission, I was on the college campus recruiting people to come in and watch the show because there was like 20 people in the audience. Like, I can remember that experience. It is
I remember it vividly.
like some people
yes.
might look at that and go, oh, that was a crappy show. Why'd you even bother doing it? But that was an awesome memory to look back on. I got to meet Brad there for the first time. So there's other things that for me when I pick shows out, it's not just about, oh, it has to be like the best lighting or these fancy ass backdrops. Like no one cares about fancy backdrops 10 years later. It's like the more the memory. So that's why I just take all that stuff into consideration when I'm picking shows out. Because again, you're using your hard-earned money to do a hobby. Most of us, this is a hobby. So it's like golf or anything that's expensive. Like you're doing it for the experience because you want it to be enjoyable. So you're in control of your experience. And that's how I kind of look at it. Like, because some people complain about the promoters, they need to run it better, they need better lighting, they need better stages, et cetera, et cetera. But what it comes down to it is you have control of how you react to things. And that's what I try to do every show I do. It's like, okay, I'm taking my step back here and I'm like, okay, I can see things are flaws, sure, but I will see a lot of positive things. I'm gonna focus more on the positives than on the negatives. So
Yeah, I think with which you touched on with just knowing what you want to get out of the show. I think that as coaches, that's something I always try to get at. It's like, what is your like what does success look like in this situation for you? And I think we've all had the athlete, the first time competitor. It's like you kind of have to reframe how they're viewing it, because it's like, I want to win my pro card. It's like, well, let's try to enjoy the actual sport before we like make that our sole focus. And I think one thing I don't think we touched on, but just with natural bodybuilding, especially with a lot of shows sort of feeding into these year-end shows, like if you're on the cusp of, or if you've got a pro caliber physique and you're truly kind of knocking at the door of going pro and you want to compete in good pro shows, it's probably better to pick shows in the second half of the year in many cases, because a lot of people, those shows generally tend to be more well attended in the natural federations, because people want to get those qualifying spots for the bigger shows, for worlds, for example. So, I do, NPC, it's a different story because there's big shows year round there. But yeah, on the natural side, I just wanted to add that in, is probably not a bad idea to look at shows in the second half of the year if it's important to you to actually compete rather than just get on stage, because yeah, you don't want to be the person, placed first out of one. So that's never fun. So um but yeah, there's lots of second half of the year shows for people.
Yeah, so at the end, like, it doesn't seem like a middle class slash upper middle class sport, but it's like right up there with that. I mean, think about it. Like, most people, like, you take a lot of things for granted if you don't have to worry about food making it to your table. Um, and we're kind of choosing to like starve for fun here. So it's a very privileged place to be in. But I hate to try to account for how much money I've spent on this sport and like how much I've gotten back through some prize money, because like pro bodybuilding, like, it's kind of other athletes, they don't pay to play. This is the one sport where yeah, like, you have to get there on your own coin. Um, the entry fees, like, I don't know, some dude that's like fifth string linebacker for the Raiders, just like his stuff is all set up and ready to go and just be on time. So it gets pricier, like, I think, as you become more successful, because now you are prioritizing other things. You're like, all right, I want to go to the shows where like the big dogs are at. Um, and or you just really love this and you want that experience because, like all of us, you're a fan of the sport and you want to go to worlds because all of your favorite athletes that you respect and admire are going to be there and you want to be a part of that. um but at the end, like, I guess, so long as it's a sound decision, like, all the experiences have been like absolutely like worth every single penny. And one thing you touched upon, Jeff, like, even in hindsight, some of the shows that I did, one in, it was Oakland Tech in Oakland, California. Like, you don't want to float around there. And that was one of the best experiences ever. I got to meet Eric there. The polygraph was very sketchy. Like, it looked like a VCR. Um, it was in a janitor's closet. So definitely wasn't anything like the more like premium shows that are out there, but still, it was a good time. It was part of my story, part of my experience. Um, and I think for most people who are like really into this, that's legit what they just seek. It's like through their bodybuilding, they just want to go on their 3D muscle journey, right? Their own adventure. But But it's sneaky. It's sneaky. And I think if anything, it kind of works out for us that, hey, it's probably best that natural bodybuilders don't compete every year. And it gives you time to just really think about what that next move is going to be and what it is that you want, right? Because sometimes it's like this year for me, it's like what's logistically going to make the most sense. And then who knows, maybe next time I compete, it's going to be like, hey, let's do something where like after the show's done, everyone who traveled with me can really enjoy the atmosphere of a new place. But at the end, like, I don't know, life is short and it might not make sense to a whole lot of people. Like when someone really corners you, like, and they ask you the intricacies of being like a pro natural bodybuilder, uh, and if they ask the right questions, the more they are like, this is fucked, dude. Like, why are you doing that? Um, but again, it's our thing. Like, there's a lot of terrible golfers out there with like the best golf clubs right now, right? Um, so yeah, like, and everyone's list is going to look a little bit differently. Like, there's certain men's physique competitors that I know that will get their teeth whitened, uh, before the show, and are very particular about like what day they get their hair cut. And they're going to tip the barber amazing because that thing's got to peak like at the right time. Um, so it just keeps growing, right? Like if you want this very specific suit, or I have a young lady right now who's been looking at shoes, and she's just like, I'm just gonna get stripper shoes for the figure division because they're virtually the same thing. Uh, she's cool with that. Like legit, they're from those websites. Someone else might not be. They might want those specific ones because hey, it just makes them feel a certain way, right? Um, so yeah, at the end, that's what it really comes down to. It's like how much does this mean to you? And people spend all sorts of money on like really, like, ask car guys like what they spend on like reviving a car that at the end isn't going to be super dependable. It's not like you could take that thing across the country. Um, but it's something that they enjoy, and like again, life is short. Like you it's the you pay to play, I think, almost regardless of what the hobby is. I just think that with this one, people compared a little bit too much to like mainstream sports where there's a whole host of people that generally love to watch the sport who don't even participate in the sport. They never even played a year of high school football, for example. Whereas like this is just totally different. It's his own thing. Everyone who's watching the Olympia, like if you look at them, like the people there, it's like they're all gym rats. So it's just it's a whole different animal. But outside of just things that, you know, just money, um, what are the other costs of dedicating yourself to the sport of bodybuilding to the point that you've decided you want to compete?
I think just time, like just
I'll say time.
any
Yeah.
opportunity cost associated with staying as regimented as needed to get on stage. That could be, yeah, you're not spending money going out to eat, but like shit, that's something I enjoy doing, and it's not going to be happening as much if I'm in a prep. So, time with training, you might be more, less inclined, or there's cardio, the steps. Females often have it even harder because they're eating less and moving more, and so it's yeah, I think everything that falls under that umbrella of more time commitment. I think relationships can take a toll if they go, unmanaged. And so I think having that, just being aware that this is for you, and you have your supporting cast, but there's sacrifices there that you need to understand that they're making.
I think the cost is you're temporarily not going to be yourself. I think we've all talked about how we're going to do an undercover prep where our significant others isn't going to notice. And I mean, let's be real. Like, that's not ever going to happen. I don't care how good you think you are. That ain't ever happening. They're going to know. And I always like at the end of the prep, I always guess, how did I do? And the answer is always like, well, it's like, well, so it's like, whether prep takes 4 months, 8 months, a year, whatever the case may be, for that time span, you're not fully yourself. And you can see it in people's demeanors. Start of a prep, okay, maybe you're yourself, you're happy, you're smiling still. But once you get sub 10% body fat, like you're not smiling as much. Your energy is lower in general. And we've all had brain farts, brain prep, or like we're forgetful at times, or priorities change a little bit because, okay, like you said, Brian, so I got to get my steps in right now. Or that might have been that might have been Ethan's time, for me to take him somewhere. I was like, well, I'll do it, but I got to do this first. So it's a sacrifice. So you're just not fully yourself. You're not 100% present like you normally would. And that's just the reality of it. And those are conversations that should be part of your process, not just like, I need to plan for it financially. Okay, these are the costs associated financially. Also, this is probably what it's going to be like during the prep. That needs to be communicated to the people around you so they're aware of it. But that doesn't mean like it gives you a pass to be an ass. Like, oh, I'm prepping. I told you I was going to be like this. No, I'm not saying that's an excuse for you to be an asshole. That's basically letting them know like how you could be, but it's up to you to not to be like that. Like you have to be self-aware and take that step back. You may not want to smile and be happy or whatever, you're just grumpy, but you got to learn to put a smile on your face when you don't really want to. Or you just simply remove yourself from the room and compose yourself, then go back in. And like even 30 years into this, like I'm not perfect. I still make mistakes with it, but I'm far better than I used to be. So every time you do a prep, you just get a little bit more experienced. And if you're aware, you can see your flaws, you can improve them. Like it's just like trying to build muscle. Like you try to build up, the traits through prep, try to improve upon them. But that's a huge cost. In my opinion, like that's more of a cost than the financial.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Especially if you're an ass at the end of it. Like you get to the final show and like, oh, your wife or whatever decided not to go because you're such an asshole through it.
You can spend the $300 you won in divorce court.
Yeah, right. So wait, it's like, man, I just spent $5,000 on this prep and now I got to spend half. I owe half now. That was pretty expensive contest prep. Yeah.
And you know what's the scary part about that is that I think the first time you're trying to get good at something, you almost have to always overpay by default in regards to effort, right?
Absolutely.
And this is me saying it, who I think I have an extremely friendly physiology when it comes to like dying but not dying, right? Like I don't lose a whole lot of pep. I generally feel pretty close to normal. But it's still, that part freaks me out in the current situation because as a family man, as a new family man, because like you can, if you're not careful, and I've seen the sport do that to people, you will lose things that are way more precious than money if you're not careful. And when you add the prospect to that when you're getting new at the sport, it's like you probably are going to overpay. You're going to overwork to, get to where you want to be. That can be a tricky balance to strike. So even for me, where I've done this numerous times, I know what that path looks like. It's very fluid. It's very efficient. Like it's been weird going on day 2 of this prep where I'm like, not a whole lot has really changed because I'm conserving energy. But nevertheless, like I'm like, I don't have room for blind spots. And that's where it is important to have people you trust kind of correct you along the way, because that's something that like we can do as coaches. But it's good to have like a life spot like you would on a squat, like someone's there kind of keeping you in line, because again, money comes and goes, but relationships, especially good ones, you don't want to mess with that.
Yeah, Berto, you've talked before about, how each like getting in contest shape, it the first time you do it, it's the most invasive process. and then it just gets a lot easier. And I was just having a conversation with one of my athletes this week about that. And, you know, he's prepping for the first time and he's starting to feel it, you know, and he's still 4 or 5 months out, you know, and it's like, okay, this is something that will get easier, you know, if you decide to do this again. But it's you almost kind of want to gamify it in a way. Like, how can I make this prep less invasive than the last one, you know, in terms of, you know, both myself and with those around me. Um, and I think when you're able to do that, you just become more efficient, and it's psychologically easier going to those places. And I don't know, like, you know, the argument is like, okay, is there a physiological adaptation that's occurring that's allowing us to get it leaner, you know, in a less invasive manner? Or are we just getting better at managing shit along the way? And
I think it's managing shit.
yeah,
You
I
kind of
agree.
know
Yeah.
what to expect.
Yeah.
Second time
Yeah.
around, you're like, okay, I did that. I know about when things are going to feel a
Mhm.
certain way, and you're ready for it. And because of the mistakes you made the first time, like I have one guy prepping now, first time getting this lean, and it's like, okay, he's already going to some weird food choices because he's trying to remove hunger. And it's almost like, well, I don't care what you do, you try to do some weird stuff, you're just creating more stress for yourself by doing
Yeah.
that, because now you got digestion issues. You got
Mhm.
stomach problems because you're eating a bunch of weird stuff to try to remove hunger. But I'm pretty confident going through that. Like he's already go, okay, I'm not going to do that no more. I was like, okay, you quickly learn. Let's not do that. Okay, let's make sure you're going back to your normal foods. Make sure you're being strategic with your meal timing, all that good stuff. But the next time around, he's going to be more equipped. He's going to be better prepared.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. I agree.
so there's a health cost too. You think about it.
Yeah.
When you prep, there's a health cost because you're spending. I mean, it's an extreme sport. You're getting to extreme levels of body fat. I mean, not to say that you're going to be unhealthy, but it's like temporarily you're going to not be yourself in that regards. And then also coming out of prep. Sometimes for people who've done prep the first time, they get extremely shredded. They come back out. Sometimes that's more invasive than actually the prep itself because now they're having all these rebound issues. So sometimes it can be the time component could be, I don't know, you guys have seen this, probably upwards of like a year and a half sometimes for some people, or even a 2-year time span where it's like, okay, you did something really extreme. There was a lot of positives that went into it. You learned a lot, you know, you did great or whatever, but it's like, there's always like the cost to it. And so it's like, again, going back to the beginning, if you're planning a prep out, you got to take all these things into consideration.
Similar to, I wish more enhanced athletes kind of had this personal mission statement for themselves. Like, I refuse to cross this line, you know, whether it's like dosages or side effects. I think for natural bodybuilders, especially early on, like you don't want to get tagged too hard. If you get tagged too hard, we lose a lot of people, not just to the sport that way, but just to this, what can be overall a very healthy and wonderful addition to your life. Because I mean, a lot of what we do as coaches, especially with newer competitors, is I compared to the, you know, people ringside for like boxers. It's like you're looking at your guy and you're just making sure that, okay, you're safe to like go back out there, or no, we kind of need to hold it here. Um, and that is the perk of having a very experienced coach. We can catch these signs like fairly quickly. And I think a lot of people might not like it because everyone feels like they are the exception to this rule. But I've seen some very, very hardy competitors who I won't name out of respect. We all know them, who, you know, just went a little bit too hard too early. And now they're not doing this. And we know that, man, there was a part of them that thoroughly would have enjoyed uh, a longer competitive career, much like we have. So, so yeah, super important that I think early on between you and your coach, like there's just some lines that, you know, you're like, I'm not crossing. Like, and if we cross that line, we either have to just hold it here and kind of just go with this effort for now, or in some cases, the smartest thing is just yeah, pull the plug on the project.
I wish more bodybuilders and even bodybuilding coaches would coach bodybuilding like other sports. I always use martial arts as that's the analogy I've been using lately. It's like, if I get someone who's competing for the first time, I'm going to coach you as if you're a white belt, yellow belt, somewhere in that area. Like, do we need to get you to 6% body fat this time around? Or is it okay if I get you to 9? You enter novice divisions, and that's the expectation of where you're at versus like, okay, the guy on social media, he got a pro card in his first show. I want to be like that. It's like, okay, that's probably a genetic outlier more times than not. That's the case. It's like, okay, let me coach you on this level. It's a tier system. Your first season, you get your experience, you have fun, you gain some knowledge. Okay, now we're gonna level up. Next time, okay, now instead of yellow belt, now we're gonna go up to blue or whatever, and just level up. And then you think about the costs associated with that. It's less costs all around. Like all around, like financially, health wise, relationship wise. Like, I'm not taking you to the depths of hell in your first prep. And because you're at 6% body fat, you don't know how to handle that. And you're a big asshole. And your spouse is like, you're such an asshole. I don't care what trophy you get. I'm out. So I just wish like people would take that in consideration. Bodybuilding, like, there's levels. There's levels to this, just like any sport. Like, I'm not going to go like, I'm not going to go down to like the PGA Tour and go, okay, I'm getting on I'm going to go into the Masters right now. It's like, maybe I can just go hit maybe go just practice and drive some balls first, just to hit the ball straight. Or let me even go play some Pee-wee golf first. Let me get that figured out. A round of Pee-wee golf's going to be a lot cheaper than going down and hitting even at the driving range. It's probably going to be cheaper than that. But you develop some skills first, and then you kind of just pile on with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the kind of the elite level of condition that people envision, it's like you kind of have to earn that through experience and screwing up along the way. And that's just part of the process. And I think a lot of people now, like, it's not to dissuade them from competing, being like, okay, well, like, I'm never going to intentionally, like, I'll push you as hard as I feel you can be pushed. But we have to keep your best interest in mind here. And especially if you have a bright future in the sport.
100%. Do we cover it?
I think so.
Yeah.
We had to close on those last statements, things that you get so excited about the prep and your vision for your physique and your season that you forget about these other things. You forget that life is still going on while you're prepping. So I think that's super important because, at the end, I think we can all collectively say here that, hey, we've had some success as athletes, but probably the best part has been the relationships we've forged inside the sport, like all you guys, but then also the other relationships that, we all have going on outside of like the sport that have nothing to do with it. So it's important that just how you want to be picky with your dollars, you just want to understand that that is one of the sneaky side effects of deciding to take your bodybuilding to that next level. So yeah, just have a spot, have good people around you, coach, friends, family, and yeah, just be mindful with your spending.